Hello once again, my name's Relevant, this is Do All the Things, and on today's episode, a Dallas Rangemaster. Well, I haven't built it yet, so stay tuned and check it out. I forget how I found the Electro Smash page, but when I found it, I discovered some pedals I'd never heard of before, and well, it kind of inspired me to want to build some of these guys. The Dallas Rangemaster in particular is apparently a super famous overdrive type pedal, often referred to as a treble booster, and it's so darn simple, it's like, why not build it? Just build it, bud. There's nothing to it. Look at this schematic. It's basically just a transistor and the basic components we need to run that transistor. Now, they call it a treble booster, and to me, it translates into overdrive because in some ways, overdrives are treble boosters. A proper overdrive isn't generating a distortion, it's just got a bit of, push, if you will, with just a whiff of clipping. Now, if we compare it really quick to the DOD250, in the gray spec, here's a 0.01 input capacitor. In the modern spec, it's 0.001. And if you're familiar, that's gonna filter out a lot of low end. So seeing here in the Rangemaster, we have a 5NF, that's a 0.005, which as you can imagine, is gonna filter out a lot of low end. Not even as much low end as the 250. This thing might actually be darker and warmer sounding than the 250. And from what I've read about this pedal, that's what makes it a treble booster. We basically just pull the low end out of the signal and then it gets boosted. But that's good. A treble booster is kind of what you want for overdrive applications because boosting the bass is just gonna cause like a blocking distortion effect. It's just gonna get filter out that bass, we get ourselves some nice and then we fill in the bass later on in the circuit. Keeping with the general aesthetic of the Rangemaster, I'm going to be using the light gray Hammond enclosure because I don't think we're going to need much bigger than this. We check out the layout. This is what I came up with. How simple is that? There's like nothing to it. In fact, I've gone ahead and I've complicated it. Keep it in line with some of what's recommended on the Electro Smash site. We're adding a pull down resistor on the input and output. All those do are allow these capacitors to discharge when the pedal's not in use so that you don't get that pop when you plug it in if your amp's still on. It's said that the 68K resistor down here is what biases the circuit, so we're putting the 100K trimmer pod in place so that we can adjust this guy to accommodate whatever transistors we need. And then we're gonna have the on-off-on switch here, which is going to allow us to select different input capacitor values. It seems to be a recommended mod. On the diagram, we're going to have our fixed input capacitor there. I'm going with an 0056 over an 0047. When I see a 005 in a schematic, which you pretty much can't really get, I opt to round up instead of down. Otherwise, most people use an 0047. These guys here are just going to be sockets. I'm going to be using some of these little IC sockets here. That's going to allow me to try different capacitor values in there because there are a couple different ones recommended. And then I believe I'm going to socket the output capacitor too to see what effect that has. And of course, for the transistor itself, well, it's getting one of these Milmax sockets. Hey, get back here. Yeah, because you see, the Rangemaster is designed for a specific transistor, the OC44, and that's a very unique transistor. You see, most transistors that we have access to are made out of either silicon or germanium, germanium being an older tech that's less common now. The OC44 is made out of something called unobtainium. Apparently, this particular transistor is highly revered for its tone. It's regarded as being the holy grail of PNP transistors. I don't quite buy into that sort of thing myself. I'm of the believer that at one point in time when they made these things, that was the best thing they had to work with of what they tested. But I believe I'm gonna find something else that sounds just as good, if not better, because there's a lot available. That and these are very expensive if you do find them. And I think they get hoarded too by the people who regard them. Now, if we go on the eBay, we see, several that are gonna cost me anywhere from either are taking 2 months to get here, or 20, 40 bucks or whatever. And then of course there are recommended Russian substitutes. But it is said that because this transistor is so sought after, these might be fakes. Apparently the ones you want are yellow. Maybe I might invest and try to score one of these one day, but for the most part I'm gonna do without. I went ahead and I searched around the eBay and I bought a handful of PNP transistors, mostly from local sellers, local as in Canada. And you know, I got fortunate to find, hey, a bog standard ECG 158. That's like your NTE 158 or your substitute for the AC 128. So we know this guy's gonna give us results. Being a little bit more creative, lots of these values are chose arbitrarily. There's a little bit of research on what values some people would use in pedals in general, and then some was just skimming data sheets seeing what hit certain target ranges. Here's a nice Cana, 2N1307. These ones didn't come up on any list, but they seemed cool. Nice shiny new 2N520As. We'll see what those are like. And not an OC44, it's a TR84 by International Rectifier. Wonder what that'll sound like. And then one seller had some oddballs he must have got pulling out of some old radios. They were cheap enough. That's a Matsushita or Mitsubishi or something like that. These are Japanese. A B176. I think that came up in a list. This one didn't. We can barely read this, but it's a 2SB54 from Toshiba. So yeah, we have options. Surely one of these is going to give me a sound I like. Surely. Well, I'm going to start off with the usual affair, cutting a 5x7 perf board in half. As usual, I'm using my favorite TT Electronics P0925N pots, which are often available in dual gang, but we don't need dual gangs, so bend this out. And then once we've bent that second gang out, chop, chop. Now it's a single gang. I feel kind of sorry for it though, breaking its legs off. Now once again, I'm mounting the pots on the solder side. So all the components are going on this side, and then the pot's going to be used to mount this pupper down. Now some other interesting provisions here. I have one of these things. That is a test point for biasing. And that appears to be going like right here. Yeah, 2 spots over, but the hole's a little bit bigger. I have to enlarge in this hole. I wish I had a slightly smaller bit than this, but I don't. Should I bust out a real drill, or is the finger drill gonna work? It's gonna need a little bit of help. Now also, the socket here I want to harden the holes for, because it has these tapers on it which sit it a bit high, and I need the socket to sit as low as possible. I was almost thinking of making a sub-assembly board for it to sit on, because those transistors are going to have height, and if we want to fit the cover panel on after, we're going to need to do that. It's a bit loose now. Man, I wish I could just make those holes just a little bit bigger. Just a little bit. So where does this go? Can I just push this through? Because they're so close to the same size. It's almost like I could just force fit it in there. Oh, we're gonna start damaging things. 5, 4, 4, 5. This might work. Drilling it out with a screwdriver. There we go. Sometimes the material's soft enough, that's all you need. And we just need to take a whiff off the sides. And bam, we got pushed through the board. Good. Boom. Wish I thought of that for the test jack. There's like nothing to this, I guess let's have at her. Hardest part being fitting this switch. According to my estimations, if I put it here, it'll be symmetrical. I'd like to solder it on there without messing stuff up. Need more hands though. I got one of them. Oh, looks like I'm getting them this time. Okay, I got it. It was careful. Hopefully the switch isn't overheated, because it kind of compacts the plastic for a while. I'm probably still going to reinforce that with a bit of hot snot glue, but it's on there now. And yes, it's sideways. It's the only way it would line up. Mounting it the way I have it is going to allow them to be perfectly in line with each other. So it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier to true up the mounting points. Where to start? It's always where to start here, you know? Really, that's just one down? We need like jumper wires in order to do that. Well, that's perfect. I was able to jam the socket through the hole right here, so boom. I don't need to make a lead. It's tight, but it'll do. It's hot. The heat just goes right through those sockets. And I feel like, yeah, it's sitting very poorly. It's gonna burn me the second I touch it. Oh, f you. Oh, I need 3 friggin' hands to mount these things. Unless, can I spread the terminals just slightly? Ever so slightly. Now, I'm still trying to figure out the best method to mount these sockets because, you know, they just go loosey-goosey. Maybe because I don't need the center terminal, if I sacrifice it by bending it like right out of spec, that'll hold it in place well enough to solder it. Still not very straight. It happens every damn time. I guess that one's going that way. I can bend it. So it looks like I can give him a bend. That's going to be handy to know now. Now it's not going anywhere. And of course the switch, the connections need to be made on this side. Hence the red marks. Remember, the red marks here are whenever something's passing overland, as I call it. Ho ho ho, tricky one. Ho, it's all down here from here, bud. Down here, downhill, bud. Use your words. Surely there's more to it than this. Surely I'm not done yet. Well, the next step is to wire it. Now, because this is a negative ground pedal, I am not going to be putting a DC jack on it. It's such a simple circuit. It's one of those circuits you want to run off a battery only. So pretty much, the positive's going right onto the board. And we're going to switch through the common negative. Or wait, no, I got it backwards. The 9-volt plus is going to be the common, which means the 9-volt negative is going to get hooked up full time. And we're going to be switching via the 9-volt plus. Got a little bit confused by the upside down backwards, but how do I do this on my other pedals? Usually white is input, which is all the way up here on the switching matrix. Where's the output? Right in here. Oh, 1 wire left. Red. Common plus. And that goes on the big ground bus all across the bottom. Why is this wire not soldering up nice? What is going on with this wire? The wire keeps rejecting the solder. That's a phenomenon that exists if wire gets old and oxidized, but this is not particularly old wire. I think it's gonna be okay now. Just some weird fluke. I think we're good. All right, now we move on to the fabrication process. Not sure what I like more, putting the box together or building the circuit. I think building the circuit. I enjoy the surgical soldering more than the drilling, though the fabrication is more in line with conventional craft work. Am I right? Sure, that's what most people enjoy doing more. As is the usual, the paint on these guys stretches well enough that you don't want to put her face down. We're gonna go ahead, get her covered with tape. Protect it. You just got to be careful where you put the tape so it doesn't impede your ability to square things up, though we are going to need a bit on the sides. I love how this stuff rips perfectly straight. All right, so there is an orientation. This side is up. At least that's how I like to have it. I'm not too worried about spacing to the top because I don't plan on putting an AC adapter terminal on there. You never know, maybe we'll change our mind in the future. I'll kind of estimate it down for good measure anyway. It's usually down at least this much. Then we need to find center. So right about there. I'm not sure what you guys use, but I have this combination square. We draw this line here and copy it across the front. So now that I have that line figured out, this board goes in like that, so I simply take it and point it downwards like this, and I'll be able to estimate where the center points of the holes are gonna be. There, and one right there. Of course, this one's off just a little bit there. Yeah, right there, right there. So now we can start drilling into this thing. Oh, let's get those holes piloted low and slow. Try not to let it walk. You know what? I'm sick of the holes walking. The material this is made out of is so soft that even if you get it like really good, it can like slime over on you while you're drilling. So not this time. We're bringing in a specialist. I've had this the whole time, yet I have insisted on half-assing the last pedals. I guess that's why I don't do this professionally. Oh, so smooth, bud. So smooth. Probably can't hear me with this is running. And even still, we still had walkage. Now, actually, I should have made that hole smaller. But we have washers big enough. That's also going to give us some room to move. Which means if I go ahead and drill this next hole, even if it's not 100% on, because our center point moved like a millimeter, which is super annoying. Oh, that's not going to work. One of these days, I'll master the fabrication techniques. Some nice clean holes. I guess we might as well put the cone bit in there, keep this party rolling with this machine. I'm gonna need a brush. Now only one of these holes goes bigger. This guy. And only by like 2 notches to 5/16. Let the embiggening commence. It's like a hot knife through butter. Clean holes too. All right, let's see how that looks. Oh, we haven't got much coming out of here. So the switch and the knob, as soon as you put the nut on the switch, it's pretty much got the same height from the PCB as the knob. I can only imagine they designed it like that and they have some sort of standard for the heights of these devices. Otherwise, what's the point? That's a 200 MSP3. So it's a 200 series E switch, mini switch, not the 100 series. The 100 series isn't pin compatible with a perf board. This one has the 2.5 mil pin spacing we need to fit it on a perf board. This is turning out nicely. So now we're gonna mock mount this up here. In a perfect world, we have this washer. They offer different shaft lengths. So looks like I got the good one. The nut's gonna sit like just perfect. Look at that. Not a hair to spare. Okay, the usual suspects. One of my Reen jacks for the input. Inputs on this side. Usually point them downwards like that. We'll mark that center. And then some sort of plain jack for the other side because these will star washer bind to the chassis. Again, I don't ground through the chassis. I use a isolated input jack and then it will have the TRS switching and then I'll have a wire go to this and then this will bind ground to the chassis. I know a lot of people just use the chassis as the ground bus, but that's bad form in my training. You're gonna go right here. Most of these are old jacks I pulled out of amps because I replaced them with these, but they're don't make them like they used to, so they're still in excellent working condition. All right, we'll draw them across, then estimate depth because they're fat, right? So I like to have a little bit of room for wires to run underneath of them. Well, we got this party going. Did you push button switches? One of the most expensive components other than the box. So we gotta shuck that battery in there as an example. Plop the switch down right about where we want it. Move it to the side so we can see, because the switch kind of holds the battery in place, right? Stops it from flopping around too much. We don't want it tight to the battery. We want the battery to be able to move a bit. We could stuff foam or something in there. And give it a marking. Thanks, Obama. Now this dimension, copy it across the side, flop her down, copy it across the front. And we know these Hammond boxes are about 6 centimeters. So that pupper's getting punched right at 3. Let's get our circuitry out of there so we don't chowder it. Forgot how nice it is to use a drill press. Why am I looking at the microphone? One bit to rule them all. Okay, I gotta remember what sizes we're batting here. I do believe that this was like 3/8. It's 7/16. So we need to go 7/16 for this guy. 362, I think this one's 3/8. Oh, no. I was supposed to say, I think we're done here. No, we got one more hole to drill. Difference is this pupper's like 1/2 inch. All right, we're done drilling, but I get to put her together. All right, time for the peel. Hopefully the shards stay stuck to the napkin there, or tape. What I'm gonna do is over the garbage. Oh, yeah, definitely cleaner holes with the control of the drill press. Like I feel like I need to do barely any chamfering on these. Which I'm also going to do over the garbage because I already cleaned the bench for assembly. This is actually the nicest, cleanest one yet. Just digging it. All right, so this switch has a locking star. We're going to snug on this. I don't know if that locking star is going to give us the right depth. About to find out. Yeah, we got no bite there. Or do we? Just, but I don't like it. I want a bit more. I do believe for sizing, I'm going to try this plastic washer that I have. That looks better. Yeah, that's perfect. Where's my bag of pot? Ah, here it is. The bag, and in the bag is 2 more bags. Oh no, they did it 1 bag this time. One of these days I ought to do a Mauser unboxing video just to show you just how obnoxious their packaging is. Why is this washer so not flat? Be more flat! This is just a common 10 mil wrench. Not too tight, you can kind of break it. What? Hold on, why is it twisting up on us? Oh, I forgot to do something. Ah, yes. The little nubbin right there. Index nubbin. We gotta break that off so it sits flat, bud. Now go. There we go. Not sure how much I care for this washer. It's not very pretty. I'm not sure the point of these washers they give you with the jacks. Actually, they do help, but I feel like they should make the shaft just a little bit longer. Your wife told me the same thing. And this guy, make sure you have a star washer. Search Switchcraft star washer on Mauser. They sell them and they're perfect for these things. You want that bite to get a good ground to the chassis. Oh yeah. All right, I'll start wiring this up, minus the switch. Let's make sure that switch fits. Yes, the switch will fit. The switch will fit quite nice there, I think it does. I like to tuck on this down under. This red, it's gonna connect here because this is our common and this is how we're switching it on and off. Cute little wire, doesn't need a lot of solder. Again, I like to tuck these wires in and around under the switch, which is easier to do after you've soldered them. And the red wire coming off the board is going to the ring, or sorry, the sleeve terminal, because this is a positive ground. We're gonna have to pass that over to the other jack. So we're gonna need 2 wires. There's something up with the red wires. They're behaving very strangely to that solder quality issue. Let's tuck that under to make it come up over here now. Isn't that just a tease? Those are just right next to each other. Yeah, those are the easy parts. Well, it's a case of choosing how to do our switching. Okay, let's get the switch mounted, bud. Now, one thing's about these particular cheap E-switches that I use, they don't stick out very far. I actually intentionally make them short because, you know, I just use these with my hands. I don't actually stomp on them. Sometimes you want a bit more length if you're actually stomp boxing them. Now, I have them adjusted low. You can make them a bit higher, but they don't go that much higher. So here, we're gonna do a true bypass. The wires off the board are going directly to this switch. Often with these guys, the input wire is hooked all the time to the pot, and then it's just the output that gets switched. But we're going to go the whole way this time. Just have to make sure we clear that where we need to put the transistor. I want to give a little bit of slack. Now I just need some little short stubbies to connect this all together. Looks a bit ugly, but it's fine. I do believe this is the last connection. Now I think we're just about ready to try this popper out. We just need to fit the designated 0.01 output capacitor into the output capacitor socket. Those guys, we don't need them yet. All right, we got the old 800 set up here because what else are you gonna try something like this with? And now it's just a case of choosing a transistor and biasing it. Start with a 158, standard issue. Now, off the top of my head, I do believe the footprint of the transistor should agree with the footprint of the socket. So before I go trimming leads, just gonna hammer that in there, bud. At least I thought I was. The socket's got tight holes. Okay, that stands out there great. Oh, look at that. I think this battery's good. 8.9, close enough. Just slap it in there. All right, so the question now is biasing it. According to the Electro Smash, yeah, it was nice enough to give us the bias points. We're shooting for the -7 or +2 based on right here. And -7 is referenced to 9 volts, which is our common ground. So right here. And with this particular, just kind of ploop. Oh, look at that, -6.4. Really, is that how deep that goes in? I feel like that should go in there more. Ah, there it goes. That's nice. A nice fixed bias point there. So -6.4, I went ahead and with the multimeter ahead of time, I preset that potentiometer to the 68K as dictated by the stock values. Yeah, I figure that gives us a good starting point. So I want to bring it to -7. Which direction is that? Oh, this direction, bud. Or is it? Yeah, there it goes. There you go, -7. So let's see how this thing sounds. Oh, there's no bypass because I forgot to put the link there. That's great. I'm at 50% output right now. That's certainly an interesting tone. Well, let's turn it up. Yeah, just as I suspected, it's not a treble booster. Well, I guess it's doing that, but it sounds like an overdrive. It has a weird sound to it, a very weird sound. Interesting sound, but it's harmonic at least. Sorry, the mic wasn't on. Let's try this again. Crunch is real interesting. Like, it's not driving the Marshall very hard. It could go for a bit more. It's cranked right now. I think this is gonna be a lot better on the 900 or the Jubilee. The speed picking, a bit rough. But this sounds like it would augment a cranked amp really well. Like, we're running at lower volumes here. Once you start getting that amp breaking up, it's probably all gonna fall into place. I like it. It's warm and crispy. I think I'm gonna actually be playing this one quite a bit. Now let's try some different transistors here. Let's try the other tall can, the TR84. And of course, we're gonna double check bias, because you know, it might be a little bit different. 6.7. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we have this bias feature. So we can calibrate it to the different transistor changes. And of course, just like the op-amp testings, they're a little bit different. The tone of this one's overall the same, but there's something different about it, like more saturation. The tone on it's so warm, I'm almost curious what it would be like with a smaller input capacitor value. I think bigger than that, I might not like it anymore. Let's try a different transistor. How about the 1307 bud? 7.3, we gotta turn this one down. Freaking love the harmonics coming off this thing. There's like a slight bit of hesitation coming off the transistor, like every now and then you hit something that's kind of like a Hey, that's pretty good, 1307. I think though, I might prefer the TR84 so far. So let's try the 2N520A, the one that didn't show up on any lists as being a suitable transistor, which is probably why it was so readily available. Oh, 7.6. Oh, we're really spinning on this to bring her down, bud. This is like a 25 turn pot though, so. Oh, we're stuck at 7.1. Like we might have run out of range at 7.1. I'm sure it's fine. This one's funny, it's got less crunch in the down picking. Biasing issue. Like what happens if we let it, you know, we ran out of range on this guy. Is it possible choking this out makes it hotter? What happens if we bias it to a higher negative volt? Like here, 7.5. Yeah, it looks like that negative, the higher the negative voltage, which proportionally is proportionally I don't know what I'm talking about, but it seems like the higher negative voltage value, the less gain this guy cranks out. So maybe the fact that we can't hit 7 on this is why it feels a little bit weaker. Sadly, I don't know that guy's making the cut. So let's try a couple of these, the Japanese This is actually the Matsushita. Already kind of sized to fit these ones. What's our bias? 6.5. Here, just at 6.5. Let's see what 6.5 does. Hey, this one sounds good. So far, these tall cans are the better sounding ones. Go figure. Let's bring it to the 7. Okay, just as a comparison, because this one's sounding pretty good, let's crank our whole volt off. What happens if we go -6? What difference does that make? I feel like bringing that negative voltage to a lower value increases the gain. So let's try going to 8 and see what happens. Oh yeah, she's friggin' weak as frig there, but I don't even care. You're going back to like lower. This is a nice pedal, man. So what's left? This guy with the leads that are cutting it so close. And it sucks because I gotta trim them down even a little bit more as a consequence because they're uneven. The 2SB54 Toshiba. Get in there, bud. Whoa, 5.3. What's that sound like? We don't want that. Okay, it looks like this transistor just sucks. I have 2 of those 2SBs. Let's see if the other one's just like that. Okay, the other one's not doing that. I guess we got one bad transistor there. How's the bias on it? 7.1. We will turn it down a bit. I'm liking the little extra spiff we get. And maybe, 6.5. Okay, we got one bad transistor, which means there's going to be no good for a pair in a fuzz pedal. All right, so that begs the question, what happens if we use just a normal silicone transistor? Silicone, sure. This is a 2N4403, which is just a bog standard PNP transistor. How's it bias? 8.4. Oh, bud, you're spicy. Watch, it won't let us go down very far. No, I think we just ran out of range. 8.1. So already we know it's going to be a bit weak. Yeah, no, but get out of there. Is that why they like germaniums for this? Well, so far, I think I gotta go back to the TR-84. Guess we gotta cut these leads down, which is a nerve-wracking process, because it's like, oh no, don't make them too short, bud. Get that put in there. Get it bashed. 5.3, sure. We'll go to at least 6. It's one of the more quiet ones, too. Yeah. So what happens if we change the output capacitor? Here I have a 0.1 ceramic. Works in the fuzz. been liking that 0.1 ceramic in a few things. I like it here too. It's just a little bit more warmth, but it can't do much because there's nothing in the circuit, right? We need to be able to change on this value here. I guess we can go ahead and take the capacitor we just pulled out of the output, put it in the front end here, and see what difference that makes. Oh, it's muffy now, kind of like all fuzz pedal style. I gotta tell you right now, I'm gonna have to rework this pedal because I don't know if I'm gonna like the sound of making this value any bigger. So my professional recommendation here is this 5 NF, go lower. Start at 1 NF and go up from there, because you can always go higher, but you can't go any lower. Right now with the on, off, on switch functionality, this 5.6 is on there full time. Maybe I should have put a 4.7. Fortunately, it doesn't sound totally that bad, but I'm gonna be curious what it sounds like if I bring that value down. I think I'm gonna leave that ceramic in. I need to order more of those ceramics. They are doing it for me for multiple projects. Friggin' love those harmonics. I'm gonna have fun with this pedal. I totally do not regret building it now. Frik yeah! So I just have to put a link there so that the bypass works. Not that I can be using this bypass, right? And now it's just a case of, I have a knob over here somewhere. I finally have a use for this one oddball knob that I have. It's a collet knob. Oh, she slams all the way down to the chassis. I need my spacer. So finicky to adjust on this one. It's all free floating every which way. Isn't that supposed to lock into place? Yeah, that'll work with this aesthetic. Very sensitive though. And like, what's the point of this knob? We're pretty much, it's gonna live right there. I think you know it. You never know, maybe on some of my amps. But I am looking forward. Whew, this is a nice one. I'm stoked. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. You know where to look now for more. Right here, come back soon. Holy frig, who would have known this simple little thing would sound that good?